just a few short days ago, some big news in the football world has been announced. Something that hasn't happened in quite some time, actually. I think the last team that I can even remember being sold is the Carolina Panthers, David Tepper. But the Denver Broncos have announced they are for sale. The Pat Bowlen Trust has put the Denver Broncos up for sale. I have a couple of statistics, numbers. It is reported potentially the team is going for as high as $4 billion with a B billion dollars. If this was to go through as the price, this would be a new NFL record for price of a franchise that has been purchased. But to buy a team, there has to be a buyer. So, Nick, do you have any news on potential buyers for the Denver Broncos?
Yeah, absolutely. And the two names are kind of floating around and that are going to be involved in this deal one way or another. And this is former Broncos legends John Elway and Peyton Manning. So John Elway was asked us on a local radio station about potentially owning the Broncos a little over a year ago. He says, this is Elway here quoting, "Who knows where that is and what that falls, but I do have interest in being a part of it," talking about being an owner. "The Broncos have been in my life for 40 years, so I'd love to be a part of it. So it's a matter of seeing how everything plays out and what's going to happen. I'm sure there will be a lot of things going on, but I would definitely like to be involved." And the reality here is with Elway, and it's going to be the same thing with Peyton Manning, is that neither of these guys have the net worth to come out and buy it outright. The NFL has specific rules of who can own a team. You have to have one owner who has to own at least 30% of the company, and you're limited on the number of investors you can bring in with you. So Elway here would come in probably as the face. Like, Elway's done great with car dealerships in Denver. I don't know if there's enough car dealerships in the world to own Denver Broncos. Like, that's a lot of cars. That's a lot of Ford F-150s you got to sell. To be that level. So he could come in as the potential face of a bid group, an investing group, with a big pocket donor with him to become the owner of the Denver Broncos. Peyton Manning's been a little quieter because it's Peyton Manning, kind of keeps things close to the chest. But Jason LaCanfora reported that Peyton Manning has, quote, had contact with potential ownership groups to glean how we might be able to have a role both as a potential minority investor as well as perhaps with the management of the team. I think this is the biggest thing, because I think Peyton Manning is going into it eyes wide open here to be a small minority investor and to be involved with the management of the team. And Peyton Manning, over the last few years, definitely has a cleaner image than John Elway. Elway's had some concerns about how he's ran the Broncos as the vice president of football operations and, how he's handled himself in that positions. Peyton Manning has a beautiful image. The Manning cast was great. All his little shows and things like that, his Peyton's Places are awesome. Everybody loves Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning joining any sort of ownership group, you could literally have like 9 mafia thugs and Peyton Manning, and people think it's the most wholesome group in the world. So every sort of major bitter, rich person that wants to get involved in buying the Broncos, I think they're calling Peyton Manning here and they're trying to get him involved. I think that's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I think he really has a wild card. As weird as it is, Peyton Manning would probably be the poorest of the investors involved, but he may actually be the key maker to who ends up owning the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, I agree. And both of those names are interesting. I personally would like to see Peyton be the one to get the team. I think that would be a cooler image. Like you said, Peyton just seems a little bit better as an owner than Elway would be. A more likable face, and it's better to get likable faces in those owners' meetings. But one rumor we can put to rest for sure is that it has been rumored and talked about that Denver billionaire Robert F. Smith was interested in buying the team, but he also has stated that he is no longer interested in the team. He's not going to bid for the team, although he personally, his group is worth $6.7 billion. So he does have enough money to buy the Broncos, but he has stated that that's not his focus right now. He's got a lot of other issues on his plate. So buying the Broncos, we're not his focus, but that's a name that's been floated around for quite a while now. Nick, do you have any other interesting tidbits that you want to add about the Broncos sale?
Yeah, the thing I think people need to understand is when you're trying to buy an NFL team, you have to essentially open up your books and let the owners and their auditing committees investigate. Because the owners are so strict with how they do this because obviously they don't want a Bernie Madoff, to buy an NFL team and it all
Or
falls
like a
apart.
Dan Snyder. You wouldn't want to let someone in like that.
Exactly. Exactly. Great point. So that's why a guy like David Tepper, you mentioned him when he bought Carolina, was such an easy kind of pass to own the team because he's a hedge fund guy. He trades public stocks and currencies. So his books are wide open because it's all publicly traded. It's easy to audit and account. A lot of these billionaires, it's through businesses, big businesses and real estate and all this other different stuff that gets really, really hard to determine the value and, how much is this worth? How much is this really worth? They say they're worth 5 billion. Is it really 1 billion? If the housing market collapses, are they broke? All of that goes into it from the NFL. And I think that's why billionaires kind of back out because they don't want to put up with it. It's a lot of headache and it's very expensive to go through the process. So I think that's why you see a lot of guys that could probably afford NFL teams potentially not be involved because of that. But outside of that, it's going to be interesting to see. And I'm with you 100%. I want Peyton Manning in the owner's box. I want Peyton Manning involved in the NFL as much as possible. I think the NFL is better the more Peyton Manning's involved.
Absolutely. And as always, we will keep you updated on any developments in this story, which should be soon because the Broncos have stated they will have a new owner by the start of the 2022 season. So we look forward to see who that is going to be.